Are we completely oblivious to child abuse, or are we too busy in our own lives to get involved? Do we look away and hope someone else will do something about it? Imagine being one of the estimated 693,000 children determined to be victims of child abuse or neglect. That is a startling number, and that number is increasing each year. An average of 4 children die each day from child abuse and neglect, and 80% of these victims are children younger than 4 years of age. These are defenseless children. Will you be the one that stands up for them? Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa, once said, "Safety and security don't just happen, they are the result of collective consensus and public investment. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in our society, a life free of violence and fear." If we turn a blind eye and pretend it's not happening, then we are just as guilty as the perpetrator. DoSomething.org reports that for every incident of child abuse or neglect that gets reported, it's estimated that 2 others go unreported. Child abuse has lifelong negative effects on its victims. The earlier abused children get help, the greater chance they have to heal and not continue the cycle of abuse. This shouldn't come as a surprise that child abuse has lifelong negative effects on its victims. Abused children are more likely to abuse alcohol and become addicted to drugs. They are 11 times more likely to engage in criminal behavior as an adult. Of all inmates in prison, 14% of men and 36% of women were abused as children. Shockingly, relatives are the most common perpetrators of abuse, with almost 81% of perpetrators being the parents. 1/3 of abused children will later abuse their own children. Are we seeing a vicious cycle? Children are suffering from a hidden epidemic. By learning some of the common signs of child abuse, you may be able to save a child's life. Here are some common signs. The child may be really withdrawn, fearful, and anxious about doing something wrong. They may exhibit extreme behavior, either extremely compliant or extremely defiant. They may have frequent injuries or unexplained bruises, welts, or cuts. The child may shy away from touch, flinch at sudden movements, or seem afraid to go home. Be cautious and watchful. While some children may be shy and accident prone, many are not, and we as adults have to hear their voice. I believe that by learning common types of abuse and what you can do, you can make a huge difference in a child's life. One way is by increasing the value of children and making the abuser realize they are humans too, with feelings. Children need to be nurtured and encouraged, not neglected and discouraged. Educate people on preventing births of unwanted children. Emphasize the importance of safe sex. Also, inform them of other options like adoption if pregnant. Identify problems of substance abuse and spousal abuse. Educate parents about child behavior, discipline, safety, and development. Encourage them to join a parent support group so they will have an appropriate place to vent their frustrations and also learn ways to cope with stress from other parents. Discourage corporal punishment and other forms of violence. Teach them to never discipline a child when they are extremely angry. Instruct them to take a break and don't take their anger out on the child. Education is the key to prevention. Visualize a world without violence. Statistics show that 80% of all prison inmates were abused as children. That is a disturbing number of people, and it is my assumption that if inmates were not abused as children, they would be less likely to grow up to be criminals and/or perpetrators. By making the abuser aware of their actions and the consequences associated with their actions, we may be able to break the cycle. If we turn away thinking that we don't want to interfere, then we are allowing a child to be abused and allowing this vicious cycle to continue. Here are some ways you can help. If you see signs of child abuse, I challenge you to contact your local Family and Children's Services Department or call toll-free 1-800-4A-CHILD to teach the child to reach the Child Help National Abuse Hotline. Although child abuse is a dangerous and complex problem with many causes, we should not take the pessimistic attitude toward its prevention. You can make a difference in a child's life. The earlier abused children get help, the greater chance they have to heal from the abuse and not continue the cycle.